Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. We have in the past looked at business practices from countries as far afield as Japan and some closer to home such as Zimbabwe. And this evening we continue in the same vein, looking to equip our viewers with the insight and cross-cultural know-how necessary to expand their professional and business horizons and take advantage of the opportunities presented by the globalized world. Hungary, like Botswana, is landlocked, described as being the heart of Europe. Global business operator TMF Group says the country's excellent infrastructure, ready-made industrial sites, offices and science parks make it an ideal location for expanding firms to build a presence within Europe's huge consumer market. Some 250 million people are within a 1,000-kilometer radius of Hungary, while the EU common market of more than 500 million people is also within reach. The company also reports that governmental incentives, from cash subsidies to tax allowances, are available for overseas firms looking to grow in Hungary, making up an investment-friendly economic policy which has propelled economic growth in the country. Major industries are said to include food processing, pharmaceuticals, motor vehicles, information technology, chemicals, metallurgy, machinery, electrical goods, and tourism. In 2014, Hungary welcomed 12.1 million international tourists. Hungary is also the largest electronics producer in Central and Eastern Europe, and biotechnology is its fastest-growing knowledge-based high-tech industry. But before you get too excited, you would do well to note that the World Bank and the International Finance Corporation, IFC, rank Hungary outside the top 100 nations in the world for ease of getting electricity, investor protection, and paying taxes. And having local expertise to help navigate these tricky areas is said to be crucial. Our first conversation this evening may give you just that. Welcome back to First Issues as we discuss the business practices and possible opportunities to be found in Hungary. We met up with Mr. Gábor Kiss at Fego Cafe in Gaborone CBD a little while ago. A construction engineer who came to Gaborone 36 years ago and never left. He is the perfect person to speak to on the subject because he's passionate about leaving a legacy of knowledge share and business exchange in his time as the current Consulate of Hungary to Botswana. You've helped facilitate many exchanges between Hungary and Botswana already, educational and so forth. But I want to know, to begin, to give our viewers at home, can you tell us a bit about the business culture in Hungary? So when somebody was if somebody was looking to go there, what kind of culture they should expect, how they cannot offend, and how to good network best?
My advice to Hungary: welcome anybody from the globe, and because I spent my entire life in Botswana, I very much like for business community make a necessary arrangement through Botswana Foreign Affairs and the embassy in Pretoria, and build up some connection, and the visa or the travel is not a problem that we can offer. And business-wise, as I mentioned, for education level and for agriculture, medicine, and medical equipment, which Hungary is very good for operation theater equipment, for any hospital medical equipment. They are very high technology in Hungary about that. And might probably, because of the economic situation, Hungary can able to provide it more reasonable cost. And also is agriculture. I'm sure Hungary can invite students to study agriculture in Hungary, never mind livestock or crop production, or even the fishery or poultry. They can learn a lot from Hungary, because Hungary is doing these things very, very long time ago. Before First War, before Second War, after the Second War. Hungary is a very historic country.
You advise students that are going to Hungary, or even business people that go there. There's a list of things you tell people to equip them. I know you said you've even worked with Innovation Hub people and others. What kind of advice do you give them? What do you tell them in preparation?
I advise them remain as a Botswana with culture and everything, and go to Hungary and learn that culture. For example, some student exchange was happened. The second year university student went to stay with the family in Hungary for 2 months as a student exchange. She was loved it, and she was spend the time in the village when she was seeing livestock, horses, and went to the community meeting, and the mayor of the town, they was dressed up in the Hungarian. Only African lady was herself, and she was loved it, and the people was loved her. They was invite her to visit the family again, and she wanted to do her master degree in Hungary when she is graduating, final graduating in Botswana.
You've been here for 36 years.
Yes.
I know it's been a very long time.
Yes.
Do you remember anything you had to get used to with regards to the way we do business here in Botswana as opposed to what you were used to? What did you have to become acclimatized to?
I'm acclimatized because I didn't have too much time to do business, because I was always busy with development. But also is building and civil engineering level and industry for the practical carried out the project. Hungary can bring a lot of technology, a lot of water reticulation, water purification, to have easy access to purified water in a remote area. Hungary is very good on that. And electricity. Electrical equipment. For example, I received an email they wanted to implement in Botswana the street light control to save electricity. I mean, a lot of technical potential which Hungary can offer to Botswana.
When you have maybe Hungarian family or friends and business people looking to come to Botswana, what do you tell them to expect when they're coming here?
I advise them, for the Botswana is a beautiful country. The people are very warm and welcome people. The culture, it's and even the food and whatever is very easy to exchange and get on with it. And some university lecturer, professors for science, mathematics, they was teaching in the University of Botswana on their contract. And I met with them, they all love Botswana. They all love the student for how they learning, examining them. And these things I wanted to actually develop it up on the higher level. For must happen more and more business between Hungary and Botswana. Start from the culture start from university level and going down to primary school level as well. Teach the student for internationally, for hygienic, and for provide the country, remote area, drinkable water, low cost electricity. And all this is available from Hungary, just have to open up the market.
Welcome back to the program as we now unpack a much discussed yet still little generally understood concept, that is wealth. To begin, I want to ask a few questions that will help you better see the perceptions you may have regarding the creation of wealth. In planning your finances, do you have an end goal in mind? Objectives that help you determine which choices, whether big or small, you should make? Or are you just getting by month after month, putting out the biggest fire first? Then how will you possibly have something you are not working towards? Does having an abundance of clothes, jewelry and nice cars, or even private planes, signify that one is truly wealthy? Returning guest Regina Sikalesele-Vaga warns us not to be led astray by what she calls the illusion of wealth when setting our financial goals, and says we should remember that many great ventures had very humble beginnings.
I think for us to talk about wealth, we have to draw a distinction between what you own and what you possess. Your wealth is what you own, and there are different ways in which you can come to owning things. So a lot of the times we find that we possess things because we've got the privilege and the ability to use them, but they're not really ours.
Access to credit.
Access to credit. So for instance, if you look at your car and you've got a loan against the car, it doesn't belong to you. So you possess it, you can use it 24 hours, 7 days a week, but it doesn't belong to you. Whereas wealth is what you actually own, or what I can call free assets. The assets that are in your name, that belong to you, and you don't have any liability or any debt against them. So in a nutshell, that is what wealth is. And there's different forms and different ways of acquiring wealth.
How does one go about calculating their wealth then? Maybe a simple explanation or guideline for someone to see how truly wealthy they are.
It's quite simple, really. You just make a list of all of the things that you have in your life, and then you look at how many of those things have a liability or a debt against them. So the ones that have a liability or a debt against them, you put on one side, you don't own them. And then the ones that you don't have any liability or any debt, you can say you own. And then the next step is to say, of these things that I own, how many of them have a long life? If you own something that's going to be finished or done with or broken like a fridge in 2, 3, 5 years, you can't really look at it as wealth. But if you look at something and you say, I've got this thing and I think I'll have it for the next 10 years like a house, I'll have it for the next 20 years, it's something that my children can inherit. I've got money that is free, I don't have any plans for this money, I can keep it for the next 20, 30 years, then that is wealth. So it's really about the things that you have that have a long life.
That is, I think many of us will find that we don't own much.
Yes, we don't own much at all, but it goes back to the conversation that we've been having about the lifestyles that we're living. In fact, one of the things that we have found is that if you go into the lower income households, like if you go into your Shah area, you're going to find that the people in Shah actually own a lot of things because they don't have access to debt. So whatever it is that they have or they want to do, they have to save for, and they do things incrementally. So they'll start off with a 2.5 and build onto the 2.5 until it becomes 10 rooms. Whereas with people that are earning more money, because they've got access to credit, they'll go and get the credit, build a house with 15, 20 rooms, and then somewhere in between, they get stuck because they can't continue to pay that debt. So it's the people that do things incrementally, sometimes that end up owning more than the people that do things in a big scale and then find somewhere in between because life has changed. They are not able to pay off the liability that they have against that.
That is a very sobering thought, because I think for most of us, we look at what somebody has, how big your house is, how flashy your car is, without considering what of the things you possess you truly own. You said there are many ways to accumulate wealth. Could you maybe break those down for us?
Okay, I'm going to start with savings. You can accumulate wealth by saving whatever portion of money that you have. So you can have an investment policy, or you can have an investment product, or you can have a life product, because what a life product does is that it assumes that you have a risk of dying at some point in your life, or becoming disabled. So you will be covered for that ability, for that disability or for the death when it occurs. So you get yourself an insurance policy to protect against that, or you can get a unit trust, or you can just have a savings product. Now, that means that over your lifetime, you are putting aside money that when you no longer have the ability to work for yourself, you can draw on those funds. Similarly with a pension, when you are working and you are employed, you can put money on the side so that when you no longer are able to work, you've got money that you can live off. So savings is one of the ways. And we've spoken about how there's good debt and there's bad debt. And good debt is another way of accumulating wealth. Because what good debt does is that it gives you money in advance to help you pay for something that's always going to be there. So you can get a mortgage from the bank to pay for your house. But the reason why it is good debt is only good debt if you are able to pay back that debt and finish it off. It's only good debt if the thing for which you are paying is something that has a long life. But if you are going to pay or get debt to go on holiday, that is not good debt, because the holiday comes and it goes and it's finished, but you are still paying for this holiday that you now are no longer enjoying. So good debt is a second way of creating wealth, because when you finish paying for that property, when you finish paying for the house, then you own it, and it's something that is substantial, that can be inherited by your children, that is going to live after you've lived. The third way of creating wealth is by getting a business, or by doing something that you know you are growing for the future. So you can start off by building a business by starting off very small and growing this business in your garage. I saw this interesting program of a young man who was cleaning shoes in his garage, and then growing the business incrementally through the returns that you are making from the business. This is something that a lot of people don't have patience for. But when you look at the truly wealthy people, you're going to find that there's no magic formula. A lot of them started being business people when they were in their early teens, when they were in their 20s, and they just built up their buses, and then you have now Sabelos, you have the Choppies. They didn't start big, they started small and they grew. So that is another way of creating wealth. And then the last way of creating wealth is where you get a big sum of money and you do a big investment, and then you make big returns because you've made a big investment. And I say it's the last way because it's not for everyone. So firstly, it's not everybody who's going to have access to big money. It's not everybody who's going to understand how to manage big money. And it's not everybody that's going to be able to turn that big money into big money. So it's a high risk and high return environment. I don't recommend it to people who don't have skills or expertise or experience, because when you get big money and you don't have skills or expertise or experience, you are going to probably turn that big money into small money. So there's various ways of accumulating wealth, And it's important to understand yourself. I keep going back to the fact that you need to understand yourself. You need to do an assessment of who you are, how capable are you, where do you fall within the spectrum. Are you a high risk taker or are you a low risk taker? If you are a low risk taker, your rewards will be low. If you are a high risk taker, your rewards will be high. But you have to have the personality for it. Don't go and do it because you see your neighbor doing it. You've got to be wired in the right way to be able to do these things. And that is why you only find that in a population, you probably have less than 1% of people being truly, truly wealthy in a big way. Because there are very, very few individuals who've got that personality to drive and to fail and to keep driving and to be very, very focused in what they're doing and to make the big monies. Whereas the rest of us are really low risk, low return, but in a sustainable fashion. Wealth is relative. And that's why I went about it in different categories of how wealthy you can become. But wealth for somebody who is in the informal sector may be wealth to a certain extent. But somebody who is in the billionaire sector may be looking at that and thinking that's a waste of time. But the long and short of it is that everybody is capable of being wealthy. If you maintain a lifestyle where what you are spending is less than what you are making.
To conclude tonight's program, we now take a look at the winning comment from last week. It comes from Oleboheng Bulawayo from Maun, who said, "The introduction of the new PPADB online bidding system is a great milestone not only for the government bodies of Botswana, but also for the bidders. The issue of low internet connectivity by Botswana is a minor issue compared to the issue of high expenses of printing tender documents. Let's appreciate this technological advancement and strive for success with this system. It is typical evidence of e-commerce, an initiative that boosts the country's economy in the blink of an eye." A little thank you gift is on its way to you, as will be the case for the lucky viewer who sends in the most thought-provoking comment or question based on tonight's program on either our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or SMS platform. But for now, we wish you a good night.